poll last night. We asked, do you believe the Trump administration should bring lawsuits and criminal complaints for subversion against the left and the deep state? 82% say yes. And joining me now, Chairman of the American Conservative Union, Matt Schlapp, and former Dallas Fed advisor Danielle DiMartino Booth. She's the author of Fed Up, an insider's take on why the Federal Reserve is bad for America. Great to have you both here. And let's start with this extraordinary budget put forward by the budget director today. The Trump budget is $4.1 trillion and has a 10-year plan of balancing the budget. What do you think?
Goes after quite a few sacred cows, and good for them. It's about time. I mean, it actually reminded me a little bit of Clinton, of all people, because it was kind of his idea to get people to where they could pick themselves up and get off of the social safety net. I was particularly pleased that he went after...
A lot of people forget welfare reform authored in the Clinton administration.
Right. I was particularly pleased that he's going after disability. You know, the fastest growing area of disability is back pain.
Well,
you can't diagnose
also
that.
It was considered sort of the Obama slush fund.
Of course.
Matt, your reaction to the budget?
Yeah, you know, what's interesting about when you try socialism like we did under President Obama, all the poverty statistics got much, much worse. And many of the government programs were weighted down with that extra spending. And if we could actually get the economy moving and get people back to work and making Americans feel better and have higher take-home pay, I think a lot of our, at least some of these budgetary problems will be solved. And I give Mick Mulvaney and the president a lot of credit for taking on all the tough questions. And you know what? Here's a real basic question. Is the government too big, and does it do too much? I think most Americans think it does.
Those are rhetorical.
Yeah,
right.
It is also, you think of all of those ads that the federal government spent money on, inviting everyone to jump onto disability, to jump onto food stamps. And we're watching those numbers just fall like a rock. It's so dramatic already, and we're 4 months into this presidency, and it is truly...
It's great news.
It's inspiring. Your sense of the economy itself?
Well, I think we're still stuttering about. I'm hoping that the Atlanta Fed's prediction that the second quarter GDP looks to be somewhere in the 4% range, I hope they're right. We got some encouraging news out of the service sector as well, which is where the majority of jobs are in this country in the first place, just this morning.
And Matt, we're not hearing a peep from the fake news people. It's really interesting. There's no effort whatsoever to talk about the changing national mood. You don't see a single takeout, not a single essay anywhere in the left-wing national media. I'm talking about the Post, the New York Times, and that mood, that spirit, I mean, it's palpable across the country.
It is, and it's also impossible for those news outlets to stop what's happening spontaneously across this country, where they're losing even more credibility in voices coming out of New York and Washington, and they're turning towards other places to get their information. And I think it's a really positive thing that this kind of grassroots revolt that's happening around the country is the very thing that's going to encourage Republicans in Congress and Donald Trump to take the hard steps to reform taxes, to reform health care, and to make these budget decisions.
And Paul Ryan, as I mentioned in the commentary tonight, what is wrong with the man? He is sitting there trying to put a 20% consumer tax forward as if
it's as if these retailers aren't going out of business. This is not a figment of our imagination, and it would put the nail in the coffin of brick and mortar retailers to do something like this.
But he and Kevin Brady, who's a fine, honorable, and knowledgeable fellow chairing the powerful Ways and Means Committee, has gone along with this speaker. And to what end, Matt? It looks like we may be seeing the end of the speaker's run if he continues to buck the president.
Look, I think that Lou, when they tell us that the House and the Senate and the White House are going to get on the same page with some principles, I think it means that that's the death of BAT. But I think we're all happy. We'd be happier if we got there quicker. It's time to get to that agreement and get going.